As Trump's threats to expand America's presence dominate headlines around the world, China has been quietly expanding its presence in what the United States has long described its strategic backyard. And unlike Donald Trump, China is doing it without fanfare, without full-blown conflicts, and under the name of humanitarian work. China is sending its naval ships deeper into Latin America. As per reports this week, China's naval hospital ship, the CNS Silk Road Ark, docked in Uruguay's Montevideo. Officially, it is a 4-day technical stop. It is part of a global medical mission called Harmony 2025. Now, this Chinese ship is meant to provide medical services, replenish supplies, and conduct goodwill activities. But behind this humanitarian label is a much bigger message for the world, because this is not just a hospital ship. It is a fully commissioned Chinese naval vessel, and its presence in South America is part of a wider strategy. Before Uruguay, remember, the Silk Road Ark has already stopped in Brazil and Nicaragua. Next, it is expected to visit Peru and Chile, and possibly Mexico. That would bring a Chinese military vessel closer to the U.S. mainland than ever before. Now, this matters because the Western Hemisphere has been declared a strategic priority by President Donald Trump, even as the administration's national security strategy openly calls for limiting the presence of foreign powers in the region. It invokes the Monroe Doctrine, the idea that outside powers should stay out of the Americas. And in simple words, remember, the U.S. sees Latin America as its zone of influence. And so if China is now operating inside it, it must be of concern to America. Beijing, however, rejects that framing. In a policy paper last year, China said that its relationship with Latin America opposes hegemonism. It insists that it is not controlled by any third party and that its presence is about cooperation and not dominance. Analysts also say that this is a classic example of soft power with military backing. China is using medical aid and diplomacy and trade to build lasting influence and access. The Silk Road Ark is part of China's massive navy, which is now the largest in the world by ship count, more than 370 vessels and 3 major hospital ships. These missions have been sent across Africa, Asia, and the Americas for over a decade now. They offer free medical care, they train local personnel, they conduct joint activities, and they build long-term relationships with the host countries. Uruguay, where this ship has docked, is one of China's closest partners in the region. It has joined the Belt and Road Initiative, and China is its biggest trading partner. Its president has openly called for closer coordination with Beijing. For the U.S., all this raises alarm because military presence does not begin with warships and bases. It begins with access and ports and regular visits. And with normalization once, that presence becomes routine. It becomes difficult to reverse it, especially when it is taking place near vital shipping lanes with strategic infrastructure present there. China argues that it is filling the gaps left by years of American neglect, offering investment, medical support, and economic ties. So what happens next? It remains unclear whether China will make more unannounced stops, but analysts say that a visit to Mexico would count as a major escalation from America's perspective. They also say that future missions may become longer and more frequent. It's clear that China is no longer focused only on Asia and Africa. It is playing a long game in the Americas as well, and it is quietly challenging American dominance in its own backyard. Sure, this is not a headline-grabbing military standoff, but it is something more subtle.